Hi everyone, my name is Chris, and in this video, I'm going to walk through each element of the Spiffio user interface so that I can explain what each element is for and how you can use it. And we're going to start this off as if you were a first-time user of our product. And the first time that you visit Spiffio, you will see this onboarding checklist. And this checklist is just a way to help you get started to make sure that everything is set up nicely for you to use it in the future. The very first thing that it mentions is to bookmark this page for easy access to your Spiffio portal in the future. And this is important because every single customer gets a custom domain name, a branded URL that's specific to you. I'm on the demo instance, but yours might be yoururl.spf.io/studio. And bookmarking this page makes it easy for you to get back to there later to be able to log in the future or to share the login links with others. The second thing that it suggests is to set your preferred languages. And so Spiffio is a product meant for multilingual experiences, multilingual events, multilingual meetings. And sometimes that can be difficult to manage so many languages. So by picking your preferred language, there's going to be some smart defaults set when you do different things in Spiffio. So it picks the language that you need or use most often as the first choice. The other two options here are to create your first document in translation. And so these are just things so that you can get familiar with the system. We encourage you to create a document, add an automatic translation, and secondly, to create your first session. Sessions are used for the live experiences, whether it's in person or a Zoom call, a StreamYard stream, or something else. And so mastering and getting familiar with sessions is going to be really helpful in your usage. And the last two things here are, one is add team members. And so Spiffio lets you add other people to your team to have access to your instance. This is a page where you can do that. And lastly, how to get help and learn more. Any kind of link that you see in the software, any kind of button, you can hover over to get more information. There's also sometimes question mark icons, like here on the top right, where you can click on that and get more details and support whenever you need quick help. There's also links to training and documentation. So those are some of the first onboarding steps that we encourage new users to go through so that they can become familiar with their Spiffio instance and know how to use it. You'll see here this section, this is a little gallery spinner of just some of the latest news, new articles and updates about Spiffio. Below that, we have some links here for in-person events or whenever you want to use the Spiffio audience view. Here's a quick shortcut link to that. A projector shortcut link whenever you use the projector view. You can run a speed test if you're at a venue and need to verify that it's fast enough internet to use Spiffio. We have here these three buttons. Quick start is if you're just about to start a meeting, you can click on this and go through the tutorial to have a new quick start session set up. If you have a more fancy situation where you're using scripted materials, prepared content like slides, and you want to mix that all together into your session, you can create a session by clicking on this button. And then lastly, if you need a professional trained certified Spiffio remote operator to run the software for your event to get most translation to many languages of high quality, then you can also request to book a remote operator by clicking on this button here. Below it, we have some links to recent documents and sessions and playlists, use and update some of the usage on your instance. And that's basically what you have here on the Spiffio dashboard homepage. If you ever want to get back here, you can always click on the Spiffio logo and it will take you back to this dashboard page. I'm also going to explain up here in the upper right-hand corner, there's a couple of buttons you can click on. One of them is this widget, and this widget lets you quickly just get a translation whenever you need it. So I have on my instance English and Indonesian set up, and maybe I'm just going to copy and paste something like, let's say, how to get help and learn more. And you can see here I get a translation of that straight up in this little widget. It's very helpful, handy to have this accessible as you're working with documents in other languages. And so that's a quick tool you can use there. There's this question mark, which we looked at earlier, that has some quick links on things that you might need to do, and also links to support. So contact admin is whenever you use your Spiffio instance, if you have a team like crowdsourced, well, we call it community source translation. If those team members have an issue with their login or how to use the software, they can contact the admin, which is not Spiffio as a company. It's actually the person who is the admin of that instance. And that makes it easy for them to get help from the person who can most help them. For people who need support with Spiffio itself, they can request office hours, contact support, or chat with us. And all these options are available right there in the help menu. Over here, we have the account for this user. We can view the details of that user's account. I'll just show here, contact support, office hours. There's a user profile where there might be some information if you wish to, you can set it up. So I can set my name here, for example, and you can give a title description so others know more about you and pick the preferred languages. And if I ever need to, after completing the onboarding that I showed you earlier, if I ever need to view it again, I can always uncheck this and it'll show up again on that main page. So that is the dashboard and some of these main menu elements. Let's go ahead and click Quick Start to create a session. So it's asking me, what language are you speaking in? Let's say I'm speaking English, and let's say I need to integrate with Zoom. I can paste in my Zoom meeting link here and specify how long my event is, and it's going to go ahead and create a session for that. So let's go ahead and do that. You can see here that there's also some options below with more documentation if you need help, but I already know what to do, so I'm going to go ahead and create session. This is an audience view link. So if your event needs to do more than just, let's say, English and Indonesian, but you needed Chinese or Spanish or some additional languages, the Spiffio audience view is very versatile and it would enable you to show multiple languages. So this QR code is a way that people can scan with their phones and quickly access the translation on their mobile phones. This link also works, and you can click copy here to be able to share that. And if you also wanted to be able to show, let's say, the translations embedded on your own website, you could click on this and it would copy and paste some HTML code that you can put into your website and be able to embed the audience view directly on your own site with your own video stream side by side, for example. So when I click on the audience view, it lets me pick my language, and we're waiting for the event to start. I'm going to show you in my Zoom window that Spiffio Cloud Loopback has entered the waiting room. So it's something that I need to let in so that Spiffio can get access to the audio to my Zoom call. I'm going to admit that. In this setup, this is how it would work. Now over here, I can click on Launch Session, and it takes me to this view here, which is the Spiffio captioner. And the captioner is very powerful because it can combine AI captioning, automatic speech recognition, along with human effort and input to be able to make high-quality captions and translations. Because Spiffio Cloud Loopback has joined our Zoom meeting, ta-da, I can go ahead and enable this thing called Cloud Loopback. And by doing this, it's going to go ahead and take the audio from my Zoom call. And I can go ahead and click on this microphone. And as I speak, it is captioning what I say, as you can see here. And when I release it, it shows up inside that audience view that I was showing you earlier. We can also view the translation by picking the other language that's available. That's the translation of that line in Indonesian. So this is what we can do in this captioner view. There's going to be a more in-depth tutorial in the future, but I'm going to go walk through each button and explain what it does. So the first thing here is this language picker, and this lets you pick what, I guess you could say, accent or locale of English that you're speaking. Or if it's Indonesian, it lets you pick your locale of Indonesian, which we only have one. And selecting something that is more tailored to the speaker could result in more accurate speech recognition. This is the language switcher that lets me switch quickly between English and Indonesian. And if there's additional languages activated for this session, they will show up there. Over here, we have some more detailed settings for the captioner. I'm not going to go into them right now, but just wanted to make you aware of that. Below this, we have Autopilot. And so Autopilot is a mode that will just automatically release utterances as they're developing to the audience and automatically release translations as well. So Autopilot is very useful and desirable, but it has some caveats. And when you click on Autopilot, there's this little pop-up that explains to you that unless the speaker cooperates with Autopilot, it may not produce good results. And so when you use Autopilot, make sure you use a good microphone, that you have good audio quality. Sometimes on a Zoom call, people are just using the microphones built into their laptop or an AirPod that's running low on battery or something, or they're far from their laptop. All of those can actually cause issues with the audio quality that result in less accurate captioning quality. And so making sure this is set up well and testing it out in advance is really critical when you want to use Autopilot. Another factor is we need to articulate clearly and pause between sentences. Sometimes when you're in a meeting, people talk really fast off the top of their heads and they don't pause. And the sentences that we say may not even be grammatical. All of those things can also affect the quality of the automatic translation when you have autopilot on. And so we just recommend people being aware, speakers being aware of how they are communicating, and taking the time to be deliberate and articulate will make the captioning of better quality as well as the translation. So with those caveats, if you want to do that, you can then say, okay, and if you turn autopilot on and now turn on the captioner, you will see that I'm also right now speaking English, but it's set to Indonesian, which really gets messed up. Saya lagi pakai bahasa Indonesia, tetapi saya harusnya pakai bahasa Inggris. So that switched out to Indonesian there. I'm going to go ahead and release that line. Here I switch back to English. There you go. One of the examples of one of the nuances of using Spiffio, you do need to make sure that the captioner is listening in the language that's being spoken. If it's in the wrong language, you will get a lot of random words coming out. So there you go. We now have switched back to English, and you're seeing that it's releasing as I go. And in the meantime, there's Indonesian translation that is being released whenever I pause. All right. So those are some of the features of this captioner view. There are some more experimental ones that I won't dive into right now. We already clicked on this button, which is used to use Cloud Loopback. Cloud Loopback is very useful if you have a Zoom meeting or a StreamYard stream, because it means we can get the audio from that Zoom call or StreamYard directly, which makes the captioning quality good and also simplifies the setup that you'd have to do otherwise. We have these other settings here. Help will show you some keyboard shortcuts that you can use. Traces are something that are useful for people who want to actually post edit the automatic captioning to get even better quality captions and better quality translation. You can practice with some of those. This is a feature to ask your audience for feedback. And so if you click on this, people using the audience view will be able to rate the event and the translation and give any feedback to you. This is a feature for auto replacements. Auto replacements are a feature that let you automatically replace incorrect captioned words with their correct versions. And so as an example, I will go back here. When I said do need to make sure that the captioner is listening in the language being spoken, well, there's a mistake here. This word captioner got captioned as captioner, and that's not right. So in the future, if I ever say that word again, I would like the system to know that if it thinks it's this word, it really should be captioner. And to do that, I can add an auto replacement. So I've highlighted that word. I can click here to add auto replacement and replace it with the proper word captioner. Press enter. It automatically replaced it here. In the future, if I get that again, it's going to update it and make it the correct version. And then I can view my database of auto replacements by clicking on this up here. And you can see now captioner is listed along with its incorrect spelling. There may be other variations, and I can add all of them here. And that will help improve my system over time and adapt it to either my accent or my vocabulary. And that makes it more and more accurate, meaning there's less work to correct things and just more accurate translation out the other end. These other buttons are, this is a quick shortcut to the audience view. This is to refresh something called resources, which I will get to in the future. And this is something that is meant for a mode where you just only want to focus on captioning. You don't need to worry about translation. You can activate this and it will release every single word as it is being captioned. Over here, I have the clear button, which just kind of empties out my editor. And down on the bottom left, we have that little arrow that I clicked on, which lets me go back to my session details, view who else is in my session. I can archive the history of every single utterance I've released or clear that history if I don't want it. And then this is a little preview if we have slides linked to the session, where as a captioner, I can be seeing the slides that are being released. And this is a chat window. And basically, if there are other people who are operating my event with me, I can be communicating with them through that chat. And it's really helpful. And then on the bottom, we have notes and we have documents. So let's go back now to the session details. And I'm going to walk you through everything in this interface. You can see up here, we have the title of the session. If we want to, we can double click and edit that to be like Spiffio demo session, for example, and press enter. this little green pin, there's something called the audience view shortcut. And so in this case, it would be demo.spf.io/z. And that shortcut makes it very easy to have a stable URL that you can direct people to every single week for whenever you have recurring events. They can just go to that same place, they can bookmark it, and they'll be able to get access to translation through that. You can change which session is pinned. And by default, it pins to the last session, but you can change that if you have a multiple session event coming up. Over here, we have that operator view that we just came from. We have a projector view, which is useful when you have a hybrid event and you want to show things on a big screen. You can show slides and subtitle things beneath that. You can show up to 3 languages of translation at a time on a projector view. And at the same time, you can simultaneously show up inside of a Zoom call as a subtitle, or in those on people's phones as an audience view. They can look at it in their language. So that's what the projector lets you do. This is a link to the speaker view, and the speaker view is very useful for speakers who use a manuscript, because they can basically control the release of their translation just by using a clicker or pressing next on their keyboard, the right button, and it'll show them their whole script. And as they're reading their script, they can release each line, and as they're reading it, the translation will be going out to the screens in your venue, to people's smartphones, or showing up as a subtitle in a streaming platform. So that's the speaker view. This is a link to the audience view, which we've already looked at. This is a link to the streamer view, which basically is meant for interpreter subtitling. When you already have an interpreter, you can use the streamer to stream their audio of their interpretation to people, and we can also subtitle that audio so that people can choose between reading subtitles or listening to their interpretation. Over here, we have the slide controller for a session. So if you upload slides to your Spiffio session, you're able to control it from your phone or another device, and it can update everywhere that people are watching your session. And it can also let people select their language, and they can get the slides in their language. And so you can control it all from one place. Your control will then update every screen to show the slides in the language that's been selected by the person viewing it. And then lastly, up here, we have overlays. And Spiffio overlays let you do things like add captions to StreamYard or something like that that are burned in. And so as you're watching the stream, the captions can appear while you're still showing or your screen share or your face, and you can see the words appear below that as an open caption in the stream. And the overlay view also has, it hosts our teleprompter, which enables you to read from a script and have your eyes focus on the camera as you are reading, and also be releasing translation at the right times as that teleprompter is scrolling up. And it also is where we have our OBS integration to be able to show captions in an OBS stream to an RTMP endpoint. So those are some of the powerful features you have at your fingertips up here inside the session. Over here, we have the audience view link again, and the audience view is really our most resilient option for giving people access to translation, because it's simply a browser. People just go to that link on their phone, on their computer, and they can pick their language and get translation. This is all the different ways that you can share that. And again, you can embed the audience view on your own web page if you wish. If you, for example, had a Vimeo stream and you wanted to show translation to many languages beneath that, you could embed the audience view underneath your Vimeo stream, and people can then pick their language and see the translation come out that way. All right. Over here, we have active channels. And if in our instance we have English and Indonesian enabled, then for this session, it means English and Indonesian are available to our audience. There is this feature, allow audience members to activate additional channels they need. And that will basically mean that if on my instance I had enabled, let's say 20 languages, I don't have to activate all of them up front. I can activate the ones that I know will be used, let's say spoken on the stage. And then if somebody comes, they'll still see the full list of all the languages, all 20 that are possible. And if they pick that language that hasn't been activated yet, during the event, it will get activated and turned on. And from then on, translation will be provided for that language. The big benefit of this feature is that it does reduce your usage if you don't know for sure that people will be coming who need that language, but it still lets you advertise that your event is accessible in that language. And so that kind of unblocks that process, that chicken and egg process of saying, okay, I need to make my event available in these other languages, but I don't know if anyone's going to come. This feature lets you offer it in those languages, invite people, and if they show up, then you start paying for the usage of that specific language. Otherwise, you would have had to waste it by activating all 20. So that feature is very beneficial. And over here, disable and hide audience audio features. Our audience view does support some like a beta experimental feature for text to speech, for example, or listening to that live stream audio. But sometimes all you want is just text. And so in those cases, you can disable and hide those audience view audio features by clicking this option. All right, below active channels, we have session resources. And so one of the key things about Spiffio that make the translation experience excellent is that we let you use a mixture of live and prepared content. And when you have prepared content, we can make the translation that much more accurate and that much more fluent, etc. The ways that you manage your resources are either in a playlist, which lets you string together multiple documents, multiple slides into one unified picture that can be released during the event. Or you can just do the basic mode, which lets you pick one document, one slide per channel, basically, per language, and then release just things from that. So that's the simpler basic mode. The playlist mode is the sophisticated one that lets you kind of put together a whole program of content for multiple people. What I want to do is also show you these two tabs. So endpoints. Endpoints are how we can integrate with other platforms, whether it's Zoom or YouTube. We can basically get the caption token API from Zoom or the caption ingestion URL from YouTube. And if you put it into this endpoint URL here, then either the translation or the captioning that's coming out of Spiffio will show up in the live stream, in the Zoom call, and the people who are in that Zoom call or watching that live stream can just pick CC and they'll start to view what's happening without having to leave their software and go to Spiffio separately. It'll all be embedded inside of it. So that's what the endpoints are for. And what's valuable also about endpoints is that we support bidirectional translation. So if you were in a Zoom call, you could, let's say English and Indonesian, you could speak English, paste in that URL here, and what will come out in the Zoom call is Indonesian. And then you can use the language switcher to switch to listen to Indonesian. And as the Indonesian speaker speaks, what they say can then be translated to English and show up inside the Zoom call as well. So that is called bidirectional translation, and it's a feature available through the endpoints here. The video tab for a session basically lets you link a live stream into the Spiffio audience view. And that way people can watch the live stream and see translation side by side all in one place from one link. And this is the place where you can paste in the link to your live stream, whether it's on YouTube or some other platform. You can paste it in here, and then it gets embedded in the audience view, and people can watch the live stream and see the translation at the same time. Because live streams often have a delay, you can set a delay here so that the translation is more in sync with the stream. And that's really valuable when you want to use this feature. We do support using the audience view both for a hybrid event or only online or only in person by selecting one of these things. When you basically have it be hybrid, we first ask the user, do you want to watch the video stream or not? And if they're in person, they wouldn't want to watch it. And so they would get the non-virtual version. So that's session resources. Over here, we have some other buttons. You can see the number of current connections. You can also view the session history. And so I'll go into that a little bit. I've released some lines here. And basically, if I have done my captioning and recorded my session, you can use this save history feature to be able to generate an SRT, a subtitle file that's timed to your event so that you can have multilingual subtitles after your event's over. And that's called FastSRT. It's a feature that we offer in Spiffio. You basically pick the language that you spoke in the channel. In this case, it might be English. You go ahead and find in your recording where this was said. Go ahead and click on the microphone. You put in the start and end time for that sentence in your recording, and then it will automatically generate the timings of the subtitles for the rest of your event. And then you can download those SRT files and then have your video subtitled basically in many languages almost like very quickly soon after your event is over. So that's that save history feature. We have a timeline view. These are more for like debugging what happened, as you can watch what happened. You can clear all the history. We will not save that information if you clear it. It's just gone, erased. You can archive it so that you can use a session again without having that history show up in the user's audience view. You can upload a history that maybe you generated from a previous session. And we have this multi-channel viewer, which is a way to be able to also debug and see kind of what happened at this event, what are some stats about it in terms of the quality of the captions, etc. So that's the session history feature. Let's go back. Over here, we have notes, and notes are very valuable when you want to create an event in advance and you want to include a bunch of links to different documentation, to the links to the Zoom call, speaker names, and any descriptions of the event. You can put them all here in the notes, and you can see here that The notes also support Markdown, which means you can kind of add some formatting to it very simply, and you can add comments to the notes. And so this is a one central place that your team can collaborate basically in advance of the event to make sure that all the pieces are in place to make it go smoothly. And to even note, like, if there are any issues that happen during the event, you can add a note there and easily reference it in the future so that your events become better and better as you make them multilingual. So those are session notes. We have here stats, which can show me some information about how many people are connecting to my event. And the one that's probably the most meaningful is just this concurrent connections, because it shows you how many people are connected at the same time. And so that's these are some stats that are available for your event for a few days after your event, but the peaks are available indefinitely. We just track at which point, what's the highest, the water line for the most number of concurrent connections that you had for each language and total. Feedback is if you request feedback from the audience view, you can get ratings and notes from them. And then Powerups are where we do things like the cloud loopback, which I used earlier to join the Zoom call, to be able to get the Zoom audio and to be able to then caption and subtitle it with great quality. Audience Scaler is another power up that we have, where if you need to make the audience view available to more than, let's just say, like 10,000 users or more, you can add audience scalers, and then that will scale out basically the number of connections that your instance supports. These do take more usage, they cost more, but the option is available and you can contact us if you need it. And that scalability is really great when you need to do huge international events that cover many languages, and you can use the audience view to do that. All right, so we've walked through everything here inside of the sessions view. Let's go ahead and look at the documents. So a Spiffio document basically is prepared content that you can use to release translation from. I just pick my language and I might say Spiffio document. You can copy and paste some things. So I'm copying and pasting this from the Spiffio website. You can see that there's some support for formatting. And basically I can save this. And Spiffio does have this other view where it's a markdown oriented view, and you can see things broken out sentence by sentence, which is very valuable when you want to do translations, to have it broken out sentence by sentence. As an example, let's go ahead and add an Indonesian translation here. I click the plus sign and click add translation, and here an Indonesian translation appears. And because it's lined up sentence by sentence, later if I need to release this in an event, it's very simple to do so following the speaker, and we have good translation out the other end. So if you wanted to, and you had an Indonesian volunteer or translator, they could review the automatic translation that was generated by Spiffio and make corrections, and then save it and mark the number of lines in that document that they've reviewed. Now, one of the cool things about doing this marker of how many lines have been reviewed is if you mark it as all lines reviewed and the two documents are perfectly aligned, then Spiffio will add them both to your translation memory. And that means that in the future, if Spiffio ever encounters one of the sentences on the left or the right to be translated into the other language again, it will pick your translation every single time and make it perfect to exactly what you want. And that's the value of making it all lines reviewed. Because then Spiffio knows as a system, it can trust it. It can trust that output and use it in the future. Some other features here include locking. So if you don't want someone to kind of mess with this source document, but you want translators to be able to edit the translation, you can lock the source document. And that results in just some safety so that people don't accidentally mess it up when they're doing translation reviews. You can view the document here by previewing it. You can apply auto replacements. So if this document was generated from an automatically generated transcript from a video or a talk or something, you could just apply your auto replacements and make corrections really quickly that way. And you can also download the file. So you have access to these files and you can download them. And that's the basics of the document editor. I'm going to show you how to create a playlist here. When you create a playlist, you're able to create some entries, then assign those entries a document. And you can see here that my source document is green and the Indonesian is fully aligned. If I also marked all lines reviewed in the Indonesian document, it would actually mark it green as well. If we had slides linked to the specific entry as well, then it would show up a preview here. And this is just a way that we can compose at a high level everything that we need for an event. So here I'm going to go ahead and pick the second document as my sample. And you can see I have a little warning here because I didn't automatically generate the Indonesian translation for the second document in advance. And that's okay, because if I don't generate it, it will do it on the fly. But if I did generate it in advance, I could have a team member review the Indonesian translation and save those corrections, and then it would look something like this. That just gives me more confidence that everything in there is at the highest quality that I want it to be. Now that we've set up the playlist, let's go ahead and link it to the session. And now when I open my captioner view or the operator view, I can see that I have the documents here loaded up. And if during that event, somebody is saying this line, generate automatic translations of manuscripts, documents, and slides in seconds, and I'm operating the captioner, I could actually just release this line. And it's going to go out with basically exactly what's stated there with the translation of that line. And that really makes the captions and the translations eminently readable by the audience. And so this is with the power of creating a playlist with prepared content. You have it accessible at your fingertips and can release it as the event is going and still have it translated to so many languages all at the same time. And it makes it very, Spiffio makes it very simple for you to do that. So those are playlists. We went over documents. Slides are something that I'm going to skip over, but you basically can upload a PDF file of your slides, and Spiffio will automatically run OCR on that, enable translation of those things, and you can link it to a session, and you can release slides in many languages simultaneously. And then media. So if you have prepared content like a video file, you can also upload it if it's an MP4 and generate a transcript of it with timings. You can generate a subtitle file, and you can automatically translate that transcript so that you have subtitles in other languages as well. Or you can have a human review and edit that transcript and make it of high quality and then translate it into other languages. And by doing this, you can do it two ways. You can get a subtitle file like an SRT that you can then link to your video when you want to play it back at your events, and or link to your YouTube videos, for example. Or secondly, you can also generate a transcript and out of it and then release that transcript in the Spiffio operator view that I showed you earlier, in sync with a live event. And that's useful if your event's not just one video, but a lot of videos and live parts and everything that all have to get mixed together. And then you can have one operator releasing the lines from the prepared content to get great translation out the other end during your live events. So that's the media tab. The team tab is where you can add other team members to your instance who are going to be helping you. Other settings, we have all the settings specific to different elements of the system, which I'm going to go ahead and skip in this case. If you wish, I will look at this landing page one. You can set a headline, subheadline, main lead, main text. I'll just do something there. You can put a cover image in, and what happens is when you save this, you basically can change the text that appears here, and you can change the image that appears here. So you can customize the main landing page for your instance to look more like your brand. So that's the settings. And then analytics just kind of shows us some things about our usage of the captioner and translation, our usage of documents, and whether or not things are auto-translated or reviewed, our usage of media, how many minutes we've transcribed, how much space they're taking up, Powerups, how long the called Loopback has been running for, and then sessions. We can see stats of how many people connected to the audience view for a session. So those are all the things over here on that menu that I wanted to show you. And we're coming almost to a close with our Spiffio overview video. There are other features and other videos that dive into each of these different elements of the interface and what you can do with these tools. But I wanted to wrap it up there so that you could just let it all sink in, try it out, try out the different sessions, try out the captioner view, try linking it to a Zoom call, and build your confidence about using Spiffio, and then exploring all the abilities that it puts at your fingertips so that you can make your events accessible in any language. If you have any questions, you can reach us on Twitter through the handle @SpiffioTranslate. And of course, if you are a customer, you have access to us through this menu here to reach out to us for office hours or chat or other kind of support. We're here for you to help you to succeed. So thanks for taking the time to watch this video, and looking forward to helping you along in your multilingual journey.